Mr. Porrovecchio, you claim that the defendants, Ms. Touchet and her daughter, Ms. Lutz, fraudulently received $150,000 in settlement money from the death of your father, Ricky Porrovecchio Sr., because Ms. Lutz is not your biological sister and her mother covered up that fact.
Yes, Your Honor.
You've petitioned this court for a DNA test and hope to pursue a claim in your home state to have the money returned to your family.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Touchet, you are here to put an end to a more than 30-year-old feud between your family and the Porrovecchios, which started with rumors and lies about your daughter's paternity.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Porrovecchio, how have you and your family been defrauded by the defendants?
My father was on a tugboat working, and he drowned, and accidental death is what it's said on his death certificate.
That's what it was declared.
That's what it was.
It's declared as accidental death, drowned.
So let me understand. Your father at the time was married to?
My mom.
Me.
Ms.
Laura
Touchet.
Touchet.
I feel the settlement was awarded to Ms. Touchet. Mrs. Lutz had a maiden name, her mother's Touchet as a maiden name of Theo. I have evidence right here on the birth certificate.
Jerome, let me see the evidence. And you submitted this birth certificate because you said originally she was named?
Theo.
Ms. Lutz was named Theo. And then later on, her last name was changed to Porrovecchio.
Yes.
So after your father passed away, you felt like she in some way affected the settlement distribution?
Correct,
Tell
Your
me.
Honor. A week after my dad was declared deceased, Miss Lutz was named, changed from Theo to
My mom had to
Porrovecchio.
change my name because I was born a Theo because she was out of wedlock. My dad and her were poor. They didn't have the money to be married. They were poor.
Disagree.
And after he died, they were already going to get my name changed. And after he died,
disagree.
she had to have it changed so that I can get the Social Security benefits that I deserve, just like Ricky did and just
Why
like my
did
other
they
brother
wait
did.
so long?
And also, Your Honor, it was with Ricky and I's full intention on changing my daughter's name as soon as we could come up with the money to do so. And also, when she was born, we were gonna put Ricky Porrovecchio's name on there and have her last name, but we were told by the hospital that legally we could not do that because we were not married.
It was
I
a
have four
different
children
time.
that's out of
It was a
wedlock.
totally different time.
This
when
was
I was
in
born. There was no kids were born.
1982,
It's not the
83,
1700s,
Ricky.
Lori.
It was in 83. You do not know what the laws and
You were little.
regulations were at that time.
Apparently you don't either.
Excuse me? I
It
was
doesn't
there.
matter.
You were not.
Okay.
My mom and my dad were separated, right, when he died.
And just living apart, there was no
Right.
legality
They
to
were
it
not
at all.
divorced, and my dad never said I was not his
denied
daughter.
Okay, Mr. Porrovecchio, you brought a couple of witnesses. I want to get to the first witness. Ms. Cortez, am I correct?
Yes,
Please
ma'am.
stand at the podium. You are actually Mr. Porrovecchio Sr.'s sister.
Correct.
And so you are Mr. Porrovecchio standing here, his aunt.
Yes.
Yes,
She
Your
never
Honor.
Okay.
denied me either. This is the first time hearing about this a few weeks ago because I have never heard that I was not a Porrovecchio until we
I've
got into
never-
it on Facebook.
I've
She
never
actually
s-
met my mom at Mardi Gras and begged her to let us back in her life, which she did.
Yes, I did.
And then when we were at a restaurant celebrating my brother's birthday after being in contact for a year, she walks right past us at the restaurant on my brother's birthday like she didn't know us with her parents. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Oh,
She
Lord,
walked right past
remembers
us.
something.
She said on a social media site that she did not remember that, and I remember it very clearly. She made my brother, my deceased brother, cry. And then she wants to post things on social media with my brother's picture, my deceased brother's picture, which she wasn't even in his life.
Ms. Lutz,
That's not
why?
true.
Yes, it
Ms.
was.
Lutz,
Not
I
true.
need to understand from you specifically, why do you think your brother is denying that you're...
Because they filled his head with all kind of lies. You know my mother more than anything in this world. She kept us together, Ricky.
Well, you know it's a
And
family feud, okay?
It's a family feud. It was
It's
not between me
it's
and you,
things-
Ricky.
That was
I know.
created by
She
y'all.
treated you like a son.
There's
They've
things
always had a
that
family
were
feud.
said in the family on my side, my
Okay.
father's side, and also on your side.
Excuse-
couldn't
what
you
did
come to
we
me
say?
quicker?
I never said anything bad to you
Never.
about the Porrovecchios because you were a child and there was no place in that for children.
We
that was an
stayed out
adult
of it.
situation.
She kept us in contact after my daddy died. She didn't have to go
So,
get you for
Ms.
my
Lutz,
home and let us spend
Ms.
weekends
Lutz,
together.
direct your comments to the court. I want to understand this. Why do you think this is happening?
I have no clue. I loved Ricky with all my heart, and the fact that he would even question me and him being brother and sister kills me because I look just like my daddy. If anybody looks like my daddy, I look just like my daddy. I have a lot of anger for the Porrovecchios, my daddy's side of the family, because when my daddy passed away, they passed away. They basically were out of my life for good by their own choice.
So let me understand.
And that killed me.
Up until a certain part of your life, you were included in the family.
Up until my daddy died.
Accepted.
Yes,
as
ma'am.
a Porrovecchio.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Until how old?
Until my daddy passed away at 5. They were fine with us being a Porrovecchio. They didn't say anything before, but after my mom received money, they wanted to say, oh, we're not their grandchildren anymore. We're not his child.
Not true.
Yes, it is.
The reason, as far as them separating, my brother and Laura, is that my brother walked in on her having an affair.
Oh, my God.
You were
How would you
sick.
know something like that? Your Honor, I'd like
It
to
was
explain
told-
that lie,
It was told
okay?
by my brother. I was
That's-
21 years old.
Dawn, you just need to stop lying and be done with that. Your Honor, this is exactly what happened, okay?
to drink.
When Ricky and I first met, I was somewhere around 16 years old. I mean, we just clicked immediately. He's a handsome, good-looking Italian man. I just couldn't help myself. I fell in love with him. After a couple of days, we started seeing each other for a while, and it was just him and I, just us together. Things were great. I got pregnant. I was almost 18 years old. I got pregnant. Things started going a little downhill from there because he started showing signs of jealousy and issues going on. We got past that. My daughter was born. The next year we got married. Then the next year my son was born. So we were doing okay.
And you were still together.
We
Right.
were still together.
You were a family.
We
Right.
were a family.
They had a
yes,
second
ma'am.
child, yes.
We had a second child.
And at that time, the Porrovecchios were acknowledging you.
Absolutely.
You
Not
were
a
part
doubt
of
in
their
their mind.
family.
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to understand the fraud.
There
Where
was
does the
doubt-
fraud
there was
come
doubt
in,
from
Mr.
my
Porrovecchio?
father.
Wasn't him.
Hold on.
It was his parents that doubted us.
Let
after
him
the money was-
explain this, because I want to understand.
There was doubt from my father, thinking that Taurine was actually for him. But he did love Laurie, Touchet. He did love her.
Yes, he
Of
did.
course he did. He married her and had 2 children with her.
And so you're saying that there was always rumors or discussion in the family
My father
that your
always felt-
father
Rumors
doubted
came
whether
from-
or not Ms. Lutz was truly his child.
The rumors
Correct.
came from the Porrovecchio family, and the only reason there's any question about any money is because they thought they can get their greedy little hands on it
The only
after
reason
my daddy
you know
passed.
anything
There was
about
nothing-
anything
Oh,
is
really?
because
All right. Listen, I understand that you are upset and very passionate about this situation, but you're all over the place. I need to understand the doubt.
As
Did you hear
far
about
as
anyone
the-
else she potentially was sleeping with?
no, Your Honor.
The only thing I've heard was
And it's
my father walking in on Miss Touchet.
As far as
With
that,
apparently,
that's
co-worker.
such a lie.
With a coworker? There was a point that you were told that your father walked in on Miss Touchet and another man.
Right, correct, Your Honor.
Your Honor, that's a lie. That's not the reason my husband and I separated initially. I got a job right as I finished school. I went to work. I was driving a really old, broken down car. My husband was home watching the children. I was driving the car. The brakes went out on my car. As I'm waiting, one of the mechanics came out of the back who was a friend of my older brother and saw me sitting there. He went to the auto parts store, bought brakes for my car, replaced them on my car. When I got home is when I found out my husband was so upset that I had been gone for so long. And
the
as
same
I
ending?
So
explained,
what you're
Brought to my
saying, Ms.
father's
Touchet, is
funeral?
that's the only incident where you felt like your fidelity was in question.
Yeah, my
he
dad
was
had jealousy
he was a
issues.
jealous person. He accused me. That was the second
So
time he accused
this
me
gentleman
and
that they're
apologized.
talking about, the coworker,
The one you brought to my father's funeral?
did you
He was
Right,
a
she
friend
did
of the
date him.
family.
were you
So
ever
what?
in a relationship
Unlike
with this
you.
not
man?
my eyes.
After my husband passed away, yes, ma'am.
You did bring him to your husband's funeral?
He was a friend of the family. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
was a
He
friend,
went.
So,
And
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yeah, and she was caught.
so what?
So wait a minute, Miss Cortez, you're saying that this is the man she was caught with?
Yes.
And then
So that's what
during
they
your
said.
brother's funeral, this man was there?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
And then later they had a relationship?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
And are you-
I lost
there was several
contact
people
for a
there.
while.
Yeah, she lost contact because her parents wouldn't allow her to have
Exactly.
contact with her own family.
So I want to go to you, Ms. Lutz. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with your father. You remember having a relationship with him?
There's not a lot that I remember because I was so young, but I do remember my dad had this really big car, and he would let us ride on his lap, drive us around. I was Daddy's girl. I was his only daughter. He had 2 sons, and
He loved his kids.
He
Like
loved
you
his
care. He
children.
loved his children.
Yes, he
Kids.
did.
I love my
Hence
dad.
his
His
daughter.
kids.
And I grew up without a dad, and that was hard enough. And then when I grew up without his memories, his childhood, I didn't have that because they took that from me. They took that and all of his belongings.
Your mother took that
and
from
didn't
you.
give them back to me. Didn't let me have anything from my dad. And now they're taking my brother from me just because they have so much hatred in their heart.
And you two were close.
We were always close. My mother would make sure we stayed and kind of take weekends with him like that. Like she had visitation with him, like it was her child. We never fought. This is the first time we've ever had a disagreement, and I'm 32. I didn't know he even thought this kind of thing. I didn't know because he didn't tell me.
So you were never aware that there was a question related to your paternity?
No.
Until when?
Until about a month ago. That's the first time that I ever heard anything that I might not be a Porrovecchio.
And so you're saying, Mr. Porrovecchio, that the family just held this in? All
Family
this?
held it in, and it's hearsay. It's things that I've heard on my side of my father's family.
That's not
So
true.
how much money did Ms. Touchet receive? Do you remember, Ms. Touchet?
Yes, ma'am. I have a copy of the settlement check here. It was for $325,000, but as you can see, it was separated $100,000 for each of the children, including Mr. Porrovecchio, and $25,000 for me as his legal wife.
Jerome, let me see that.
My mom always, I never
The money
wanted
that
for
was
anything. My
presented to
mother
me
bought
was-
a home.
Or it was under my name. My grandfather's the one who took the money and put it in an
Oh,
account.
I didn't even know that. That's
He
nice.
took it in an account and put it in there until I was
grandfather.
18 of age.
And
to
when
be
he
able to use
turned
that
18,
money
he bought a
for what I
Mustang,
needed.
and he wrecked it and almost killed himself with it. My mother cared for me and my younger brother with that money, and I don't have any regret on how she
How
decided
many
to
houses y'all
spend
lived
it.
in?
One.
house.
One
She
house.
bought one house for
So,
us.
Mr. Porrovecchio, it is your intention that you want to return to your home state and
Yeah, okay.
file a claim to have that money returned to you. You believe...
Well, if she comes out, she's not my biological sister, I will pursue that.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this is 30 years going on. And
30
it's-
years.
And this is all new to me. That's what I love.
So,
This could have been done with 30 years ago.
so for 30 years, this family
could've
has
told
been in
There was a
turmoil.
reason. We always.
Why are you here?
Why
you
are
don't
you-
even want me. Why
Hold
do you
on,
keep poking your head out?
hold on.
Sorry, Your Honor.
For 30 years, this family has been in turmoil
Yes, ma'am.
over rumors and ultimately a settlement, which is far too common.
Money.
That at
And
the
Your
end of the
Honor,
day, it
as
comes
you
down
know,
to that.
That is nowhere near the cost of what it takes to raise 2 small children.
I know I'm raising 4 kids.
I think
Keep
the
that
only
out.
way
Different
we are
David
going to
mamas.
be able to figure out how and if we can move forward
Sorry,
is to have the
perfect
results.
like yours, Lori.
Jerome?
I don't
Shit.
want.
You should
I don't
be
want-
sorry.
I don't want a relationship anymore. I'm good.
These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics and they read as follows. Just so we are clear, in order to determine if Ms. Lutz and Ricky Porrovecchio Jr. are siblings, we performed a siblingship DNA test using Mr. Porrovecchio Jr. and his mother, Ms. Bruce's DNA, as well as Ms. Lutz and her mother, Ms. Touchet's DNA. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Your Honor.
The results read as follows. In the case of Porrovecchio versus Touchet Lutz, pertaining to 32-year-old Taurine Lutz, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Porrovecchio and Ms. Lutz are siblings.
Thank you.
told
Keep up
you.
the lies, Ricky.
I told
Keep
you.
them up. You ruined our relationship with
done.
that lie.
You're done, Ricky.
Thank you very much, Dawn.
You the one that wanted this.
No, I wanted it
shouldn't
to
have
show
brought it
you.
out.
I
You
wanted
brought
to
it
show you
out,
we
and
never
you
had this
got
problem
exactly
until they
what
got in
you
the middle of
deserve.
us.
Let's get some order. Listen, listen,
I just wanted to
listen.
know the truth.
So your
Yeah.
sister's nothing. She
I'm
never
nothing.
was
I didn't
nothing.
matter, right?
We get it.
And you killed our relationship. You know how I feel about this.
Family. I was hoping the truth would be the catalyst to more positive discourse. That is your sister.
Oh, yeah.
Biologically.
No,
don't
stay on your side.
Hold on,
No,
he came
no,
to
ma'am.
give a hug.
ma'am.
I can't even do this, Ricky.
You wanted
Go,
to do
goodbye.
Well, listen, he came over to try to give a hug. If you're not ready to receive that, take a moment
I've dealt with a
and
lot of
hopefully
grief.
one day, because I'll say this, what is the sense of fighting, yelling, screaming, and fighting for validation to say, I know I'm a part of this family, and then you find out, yes, you are a part of the family,
I knew it.
but I don't want nothing to do with the family.
We didn't want it to begin with.
There's a
Your
reason to
Honor.
even being here.
What you stated today has been validated by the DNA. And what I'm hoping for you is that you will use that truth and say you don't have to harbor another hurt feeling. Everything you stood in court today and said was true. That is his child. Ms. Alexander, you and your daughter are here today because your son contacted Paternity Court. He was seeking a DNA test on a baby he was unsure he'd fathered. Sadly, just 2 weeks later, he died in a tragic accident. You have the court's deepest condolences.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Jackson, you admit Mrs. Alexander's son had reason to doubt paternity.
Yes, Your Honor.
You say you were having sexual relations with both him and another man at the time of conception.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mrs. Alexander, please tell the court what brought you here today.
Well, Your Honor, I came here on behalf of Nicholas. He had started this process about 2 weeks before he died. He had called the court for a paternity test.
Your son had reached out to Paternity Court.
He certainly did.
Because he had an issue he wanted to resolve here.
Absolutely. Your Honor.
And you then found the message
Yes.
returned from the court.
Yes, Your Honor. I don't believe in coincidences, and it was supposed to happen. We were supposed to be here, and I'm glad we're here to get clarity, and
Your brother had contacted the court
Yes.
because he was unsure if he had fathered Ms. Jackson's son.
yes, Your Honor.
At the beginning, when William was first born, the child was first born, she said that it was other men. And she said it was more than one. She told me, my daughter, and Nicholas. Nicholas also said at the delivery it was more than him at the delivery, waiting
That's
to.
not true,
No,
Your
that
Honor.
was not.
He told me it was 2 other guys
That's
No,
not
that was
true.
not.
there. And when the baby was born, they looked at it and looked at
That's
the
not
child,
true.
and they said it didn't look like them, and they dapped each other, and they left.
That's
They
not
said,
true.
"Man, you
True.
stand."
Your Honor, Nick was the only
That's
person
not true.
that stayed. He was the stand-up guy. He wanted
That's not true.
responsibility, I feel.
I always told him
So-
never to be a deadbeat.
I have to ask you, were there multiple men at the hospital
No, other but my
when
boyfriend.
the baby was born?
No, then my boyfriend.
Were there multiple men you were sleeping with during the time of conception?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you know when you got pregnant, you did not know who the father of your child was.
Yes, Your Honor. But at the hospital, it was only one other person that I knew who came with us was my boyfriend, but I met him when I was already 5 months pregnant.
Okay.
He was not in delivery.
So at the hospital, it was your boyfriend there and then also Nicholas.
And people that came with him.
So after William was born, Nicholas, did he accept him as his son?
I do have a picture of him holding him when Will came out after I got done
And
holding
he
him.
was excited when the baby
And when
came
he
out.
first came out, as I was holding him, he was telling me to hurry up so he can get him.
So he was excited to hold the baby for the first time.
I do have a picture of him holding my baby for the first time.
Jerome, may I see that, please? So he did accept him, or was he just trying to do the right thing, or did he accept
accepted him.
wholeheartedly that he was the
He-
father of
he
this child,
accepted
even though you
because-
expressed to him there was a chance he was not?
Yes, because he told me he felt in his heart that that was his son.
Nick, I felt like was playing two sides. He would say that, you know, he was sure about it, but then at the same time, he wasn't sure. You know what I mean? I felt like he just knew that me and my mother wasn't going to just jump the gun just like he did. You know what I mean?
Okay.
As far as accepting William, you know what I mean? And he didn't take no precautions, no protocol as far as when William was first born, they should have been, you know, got a paternity test for
She
William.
tried to do that.
I did try to get a paternity test the day William was born, but the hospital told me we had to go to another place. And I tried taking him to that place, but he wasn't willing to do that with me. Because I had to open up a case with child support against him for me to take that DNA test.
About 2 weeks before Nicholas died, they hooked up to go to child support, but they couldn't do it. I had talked Nicholas into doing that because I said, I don't believe he's yours, so it won't matter if you go to child support because they won't charge you then.
Why is it you didn't believe the baby was?
Because she was honest. She's lying. She told me and my daughter that it was several different men that
My
could be
daughter
the
never said that.
possibility. We was in my basement. She told us that was the first time Horn William came to my house after he was born. I had told Nicholas I didn't want him there because I didn't want to fall in love with him until I knew. We had already had a scare like that once before, and Nicholas had a previous relationship, and the girl told him the child was his, and it turned out it wasn't.
And they were actually in a relationship.
And they was in a relationship, not no fly-by-night. That was a fly-by-night relationship, and it wasn't.
And your concern was, please don't bring the baby yet because I'm going to fall in love with the baby. I'm going to want to be the baby's grandmother.
That's right.
And then I believe you need to know, and we need to know as a family, if it's indeed yours, especially since the young woman is also saying there's reason to doubt.
And it's for our clarity, Your Honor, you know, it's for our clarity. Now Nick is not here to speak for himself, you know.
Are you certain as you stand here today that the father, out of those two possibilities, would be Nicholas?
Yes, I felt in my heart that Nick is my baby father. He also felt that. I have never told them that it was more than two people. It's always been him and the other dude. Because I did have a one-night stand with the other dude a couple of weeks before my birthday, and I did indeed sleep with Nick the day after my birthday.
If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. Your mother is here as well, ma'am. Please step up to the podium. This is the time I'd like to hear from you.
How you doing, Your Honor? I'm April Zachary. I'm Vania, Jackson's mother. Me as a parent, Your Honor, I can understand in like the situation about them wanting to have doubt. I understand how she feels as a mother. I understand she loved her son. I loved her son. Despite of what's going through, Nicholas called me, even when I didn't have Willie at my house, he called me either via Facebook or by a phone. I talk to Nick almost every day. I consider him as being my son-in-law. When Nick left here, I was hurt. I was deeply hurt. And I came here because I wanted to have clarity. I wanted her to have clarity. I was there at the hospital when William came to this where it was me and Nick, it was nobody else. When that baby was coming here, he was excited. Me and him cheered. He went to cut the umbilical cord. She never let me know that it was a doubt. I've been to her house. If she had a doubt that my grandbaby was not her grandson, she never came to me and said that. Nick never came to me and said that. So I was really unaware that this is how she felt until today. And like my daughter said,
Excuse me, Your Honor, Nick didn't sign the birth certificate.
he had to have his ID to sign the birth certificate. He never took it back up there.
But he called his mama too, and I told him
I never did say he gonna call the birthday. He didn't sign the birth certificate.
And told
He
me
might have
about
called you.
the
He might have did.
paperwork.
Hold on, ladies. Now, Ms. Alexander, go ahead.
He called me from the hospital. I said, have you signed anything? He said, no, mama, but they brought some papers in here. I said, get your butt out of there. I said, you better not. I said, you better not sign nothing. But why would he tell a lie that two other guys was there? What he got to get out of there?
What did you want to add, Ms. Alexander?
The baby does not look anything like any of
He
us.
does.
Don't look like my brother.
He do.
He probably look.
Alexander, you seem like you're emotional. What is it that you're thinking?
My son was a stand-up guy. I mean, he was a real man. I had always told him, don't be a deadbeat. He loved that baby. I love William. I didn't want to fall in love with William. I told him, don't bring William over my house. I don't want to fall in love with him until we get this confirmed. Because I have a family member who went through the same thing. And I can't do that. And she's still in love with that baby now. And she don't found out that baby ain't her grandson.
You're feeling that your son was trying to be a good guy and
Just
trying
take
to do the
Just
right
take
thing,
responsibility.
even though he was not sure.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's right. But at the end, he really wanted to find out.
Well,
Because
obviously,
was in
because he
another
reached out to this
relationship.
court.
He was in another relationship with a woman that he had fell in love with, and I knew eventually they were going to marry.
What was your relationship like with Nicholas?
Messing around, it was it.
They were friends.
No, we was friends at a point in time, but after I found out I was pregnant, that friendship kind of just broke off. But I would like to add something to Will being born. Nick actually named my baby.
William is named after my grandfather.
That is an interesting piece of information. Why would your son give Miss Jackson's son your grandfather's name unless he truly believed it was his child?
Like I said, Nick wanted responsibility. He did.
She never
He
asked
took
Nick
it.
for
He
nothing.
brought 2 of his best friends with him to the hospital, and both of them have kids. And Nick always wanted to be in the club with them.
Excuse me.
He always wanted to
I
be a man.
wanted my baby
Well,
name
Bill-
to be different. I didn't want his name to be William. His
And she
original
never asked
name
him
was
for
supposed to
anything.
be DeAndre Jackson.
Well, you was the mama. You could have named it what you wanted. You didn't have to go by what no man say.
And she
But I
did
just
it.
felt like
She did it out of love,
I
baby.
just felt
She
like
did it out of love, baby.
You didn't name the baby William out of love for Nicholas. You named the baby William because Nicholas loved the baby so much.
And I felt like, to me, I owe him that type of respect for him to give, if that is his first son, a name. I don't want him just to be like, I didn't name him and all that good stuff. He came up with the name William. I didn't have a problem with it. I told him, if
And
you
they
want,
agreed, they came
and
as
we agreed to the
compromise.
name.
And they agreed
this,
to it.
the other potential father, did you talk about any of this, any of the birth, any of the,
I
any
told
of
him I
that
was
with, in the
pregnant.
names with him too?
He acted kind of the same way Nick did when I first told him I was pregnant. Both of them said they really wasn't ready to be a father, and I didn't talk to them until I didn't talk to Nick till I was after 2 months pregnant.
And what happened to the other guy?
I just cut him off completely because I didn't have time for him to be acting like that. Like
But he could be the possible father.
And
it
that's
really
fine.
don't matter, cause I've been taking care of my baby by myself.
That's fine.
With my
'Cause
mama.
we do this.
It's me.
Well, why are we here? To
So
get
if I
that,
took-
to
that's
get that,
fine.
to get
That's
that check
right.
or something.
We don't need
I
no check,
came
baby.
here.
You brought us here.
She called.
You brought us here. We didn't call you. You brought us here.
You didn't have to
call the court.
come. You didn't have to come.
Because
Hold on,
baby wanted-
ladies. Hold on,
Excuse me.
ladies. Explain to me, what is it you're
Excuse me.
trying to say?
A couple of days after the memorial, wanting a copy of Nick's death certificate. What that tell you? You want some money, though, right? For your baby.
Excuse me.
And why you can't go to the other
Excuse
men?
me. Excuse me. And only reason I asked for his death certificate because I am a single mother. I stay with my daddy right now until I can get on my feet. But I am a single mother. I just got finished with high school. I just need that type of help.
Ms. Alexander, what are your hopes for today?
Your Honor, this is my son's obituary. And we had a great relationship. And I just want answers. I just want answers. Nick started this, and I just want to finish it for him. I want answers.
He started this before he died. And
I just want to know who William is. Is he Nick's son or is not?
Do you have a hope? Do you have a hope that William...
I really do hope he's Nick. Nick would want that. I have a piece of him if they let us in his life, but I would have a piece of him.
What are you hoping for, Ms. Alexander?
I'm hoping for clarity. You know, my brother, as you know, he loved the baby. He did. And
My husband does too.
At the lake, right before he died, you know, this is my last picture. Would you like to see it? The last picture that
I took
would.
with my
Jerome,
brother.
Will you hand that to me, please?
That's his last photo
At the lake, right before he died. And he was just telling me his plans as far as, you know, his relationship with his girlfriend, his relationship with William, and how he just wants to be a great father to him and just get some clarity of what's going on. And it's just unfortunate that he couldn't find out before he died, you know?
I'm so truly sorry for your loss in such a tragic accident.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I think at this time we should learn the results. Are we ready?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm gonna go get my baby.
The results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics and they read as follows. In the case of Alexander versus Jackson, when it comes to 1-year-old William, it has been determined that Mr. Nicholas Alexander is not the father.
Yes, I wish it would have been different. Because I really love Nick. I really do. We clicked.
I wish it would have been different too, April.
It's okay. I love that boy. I love Nicholas. I love that boy.
Nicholas was a lovable boy.
Boy.
And you know, I'm
My
sorry.
baby.
It's okay.
It's all right. It's all right. I still love Willie Buchanan. I still love him. Don't cry. It's gonna be all right.
Miss Jackson,
I just want my baby.
I hope you know and you believe that your child was blessed having known him
He was.
and
he
having
was very
been loved
blessed.
by him. Miss Jackson, if you make a baby, you have to take care of a baby in this country.
I take care of my baby.
No, I'm not talking about just you. I'm talking about the father. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes.
I wish you all the best of luck and keep those beautiful memories of Nicholas alive.
He will.
Your Honor.
Okay?
Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you.